a lot of us on the show, we said this was sort of Matt Rhule hanging out his shingle that we're open for business because he knew the reality of what a quarterback in the portal and or recruiting could cost in modern day football.
Make no mistake that a good quarterback in the portal costs $1 million to $1.5 million to $2 million right now. So just on the same page, right? So let's make sure we all understand what's happening. So there's some teams that have $6 or $7 million players playing for them.
Yeah, so that's Matt Rhule. Sort of hanging out his shingle, we're open for business. We know the game, and he gets a big flip. This isn't a portal guy. It's a high school recruit. But I would assume that if you're getting the number one quarterback in the recruiting process, the high school guy, you've got a pretty good NIL commitment to this guy too.
Yeah, look, I think there was dominoes, Brown, that fell, and I think it started with Matt Rhule just letting everybody know, look, this is probably going to get out there, that in order for us to get Dylan Raiola, we're going to have to pay 7 figures. And I think it really set up when Carson Beck announced he was going to come back for his senior year because Raiola wants to play immediately. And by watching Nebraska this year, if he's got the semblance of a heartbeat and he can hit an open receiver on a 10-yard out, I think he will play. I don't think we can disagree that this is one of the best fan bases out there. Right. I don't think they've got the resources some of the other major programs have had, and that's one of the reasons they've fallen off. But it looks like they found money for this kid, and I would be shocked if he wasn't making a couple of $1 million a year.
Well, the way it got reported by the people that kind of know what's going on at Nebraska is that, and you got your Nebraska red on today.
I do.
Like you support our boy Matt Rhule.
And I think Rhule's got this hat, too.
I think he does. The way it's being reported by those that follow Nebraska football is Matt Rhule has whipped this into shape here, that he's got this NIL deal, this collective in line, and the recruiting process in line. And that's what is at play here. Look, there is so much of the kid's uncle is on staff, but this has been a long-time Georgia recruit. And,
remember, this is the kid that moved high schools, I think, 3 times to continue to play through the high school process. The timeline of this is interesting because yesterday we mentioned on the show, Brownie, that Raiola, there was buzz that maybe he was going to stick with Georgia. He wasn't going to flip. And then something happened last night, to LT's point, that Carson Beck decided he was going to come back. He made that announcement. He had been hawing around. There had been reports from Mike Griffith. He was asking for $4 million to stay at Georgia and not go to the NFL. He made his public announcement last night. Hey, friends and family, I'm returning to Georgia for my senior season. And then about an hour later is when Raiola said, Nebraska for me, my friend.
Yeah, and I don't think it happens, on the spur of the moment like that. It's probably a process. Again, this guy was a legacy. His dad, was it his dad that played there? And his uncle's on staff there?
Yeah, Dominic, and played in the NFL for years with Rockstars Detroit Lions, and he's one of the Nebraska greats.
He gets in the conversation as being, if you say greatest Nebraska player ever, he probably doesn't win it, but he's in the conversation.
If you talk offensive line, he might be your top offensive lineman of all time when you talk about those great Cornhusker offensive lines.
I like Dean Steinkooler. I don't know why I remember him, but Dean Steinkooler, I think was the guy's name, that played back in those triple option days. You were already fighting that if you were Georgia, but boy, you had taken this kid a long way down the path to the finish line, and right before signing day to lose him, it's not going to wreck Georgia's program by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. If you would have asked, you can have Carson Beck for one more year or this number one recruit coming in.
That's the question I asked earlier.
That's the question Brown asked earlier, and I think...
I want Carson Beck.
That's what I would say, but I know what fans look at, too, like...
Well, look, I know Raiola... Well, I can't say that. I was going to say, I know he can't win you a championship in year one, but all the things around him. But I feel like Carson Beck, you're going to be number one, Alabama or Georgia coming back next year.
No. I trust. If I'm a Georgia fan, I 100% trust Kirby Smart. Like Alabama fans that said the day I quit worrying about recruiting was January 2007, the day Nick Saban walked on the. I've heard Alabama fans say that the day he walked into Tuscaloosa, I quit paying attention to the recruiting sites because it doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
I
trust the guy.
I trust the guy's going to get the tools he wants. And I would say the same thing of Kirby Smart. 100%. If I'm a Georgia fan, I don't even subscribe anymore.
Well, to your point, Brown, one thing for sure, you know what you got with Carson Beck.
For one more year, you do.
For
That's
one more
the
year.
problem. Yeah. Or not the problem, but that's the question that Georgia faced.
And you got great parts around him, but you don't really know what you got with this guy. It's like in the NFL.
Yeah.
You draft a guy number 1 overall, you think, my goodness, I got a great guy. Got a great guy. He's number 1 overall. Doesn't always work out for you. Sometimes the 6th round guy or the 7th round guy or Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, ends up being the guy. So at least with Carson Beck, you know for one more year, you're a championship contender. And in this day and age, I don't think you can play in 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, I don't think you can either.
You got to play in 1 year.
I think it's 1 year, and I think you do know what you're getting in Beck, but I think you're going to get a better Beck. Yeah. You know, kind of like we got a better Stetson in year 2, an elite Stetson. I think you're getting an elite Beck. An R2D4, no, excuse me, NH324, I think, was asking about the poem. I have never, you got to be really good if you're going to send a poem out.
Okay, let's get into that a little bit right after Brownie tells us about our friends at JohnsonRVCenter.com. And I'll need Forrester's mic. Maybe, Forrester, can you get on Lunsford's mic and do this? Can we get Lunsford's mic close enough so you can pull this off? Because just to get a good audio here. Because Forrester Brownie has a cinematic reading that he's going to do live for us.
I didn't know Scott had that in him.
Yeah, I didn't either. Raiola picks Nebraska, and he gives us a dramatic poem that he's written, or poem, depending on where you're from.
Wait, what's the other one?
Poem.
I read a poem for you.
Here is Scott Steinbeck Forrester. Scott?
In the realm of college dreams where purpose takes flight, enter Dylan Raiola, crafting his narrative in the night. Once lured by Georgia where powerhouse glory gleamed, yet Nebraska's purpose in his heart brightly beamed. In the scarlet and cream where legacies entwine, Dylan, like Rogers, Rozier, and Crouch, a hero in the line. No longer a cog in some powerhouse machine, but a quarterback with an even grander ambition unseen. So fellow fans await, with hope in the air, for Dylan to choose his purpose to declare. In a weekend's decision, destiny calls to fulfill his purpose where a new dynasty enthralls.
Yeah, very well done.
Very good, Forrester. Boy, this is really, really corny, hokey. This guy talking about himself in first person.
Oh, what you mean? Rogers, Rozier, and Crouch?
Yeah.
Throwing himself in
He's
there.
He's a hero in line. For Dylan to choose his purpose to declare, this is, I got a feeling Dunaway likes this.
Oh, no, I don't. I was waiting, exactly, Andrew. I was waiting for Dasher or Dancer on Prancer.
But it's so cheesy.
Sounds like Twas the Night Before Christmas.
Yeah. Like, I would be so excited about getting this guy. I don't care what we had to pay to get him, but this puts a little damper on it. I'm a little concerned now.
But I mean, doesn't this highlight, though, like nobody's got to feel sorry for Kirby Smart. Not one person in coaching is going to feel sorry.
I think
for
people
Kirby
are
Smart.
happy that a guy like Raiola would flip.
But doesn't this just show you how difficult it is to manage this stuff? Because
they thought they had him?
Well, I'm just going to say Carson Beck probably had a difficult decision to make. Do I come back or do I go to the NFL? Carson Beck would have got drafted.
Well, and I told you yesterday, I don't think it was off the air, but you know what I would have told Carson Beck when he came to me and said, you know what, I need $4 million to come back.
Yeah.
And Klatt said it on the air, didn't he? Klatt said, hey, good luck in the NFL, is what he would have told.
That's what I would have said, too.
He would have said, $4 million, okay, all right.
Yeah, I've tried to say this before. I don't know the inflation. But I used to go to the bars in Tuscaloosa, and I'd take $30 in my pocket, and I knew I could have a big night. Yeah. And look, good for these kids being able to get $4 million, but I'm right there with you. If he would have come to me, I'd have been like, you know what? I'll give you $2 million. We ain't getting $4 million.
But because, I don't know what we were giving you already, but if that ain't enough with us nurturing you from being nobody to giving you a chance to win a championship, and oh, by the way, you played okay against Alabama, but you didn't win us the game.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the best defense we faced all year long. Buddy, we're in the Orange Bowl. We're not in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You're going to come want to double your
after
salary?
a loss?
Yeah.
But because he was making that decision and I guess had to ponder it or figure out if he's going to get $4 million or $2 million or whatever, Dylan Raiola was still there, and Brock Vandegrift looks at the landscape and says, well, it's either going to be Carson Beck, who I'm not going to beat out, or it's going to be Dylan Raiola, who they obviously love, and they're bringing him in.
Or both.
Or both. I need to look elsewhere. And then here's Raiola saying, well, if he's coming back, I'm not going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, so you see how hard it is to manage a roster if you're Kirby Smart. He's got his capable backup who's like, I'll just punch on out because this is not going to work out for me. He's got his top recruit who's like, well, if this guy comes back, I'm not going. But then he's got a guy that if you come back, you're a national championship contender. I mean, it's just, it's a pain.
I bet the communication went like this. Dylan probably believed that he was going to be the starting quarterback at Georgia, regardless of what happened this year. And as him and his father watched Georgia and Carson Beck, they're like, damn, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a chance he goes to the NFL if he doesn't. They probably had the conversation with Kirby. Hey, look, if he comes back, we're going to have to look elsewhere. We want to play immediately.